All right, welcome to Senate Judiciary. We'll have two bills for our consideration today, House Bill 171 and then House Bill 227. Pierre, will you please call the roll?
Senator Kriegel,
Here.
Senator Crum,
Here.
Senator Hicks,
Excused.
Senator Kolb,
Present.
Chairman Olson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, we have House Bill 171, Sexual Exploitation of Children Amendments. Representative Strzok, welcome to Senate Judiciary.
Hi, my name is Tommy Strzok from House District 6, and I bring you House Bill 171, Sexual Exploitation of Children Amendments. So really, this is a bill that seeks to define more clearly the crime of sexual exploitation of children by amending the definition of the term explicit sexual conduct. And the definition of the term currently includes the lascivious expedition of the genitals and public area of any individual. And the bill would amend this by including the chest or breasts of a female. And so pretty much what happened, our investigator there in Converse County, they had a situation where there was a gentleman taking pictures of a stepchild and
Doesn't sound like a gentleman.
a male, we'll put that, thank you, taking all these pictures. And because it was not listed as one of the body parts, he was able to not serve any time. They were able to get him off of those charges because it was not in our statute. So really, this is hopefully will be an easy, get this through, add that to our books and put that in there.
Senator Crago.
So, Mr. Chairman, so with just a little bit of more background, because it should have been a crime.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, it is a crime. I mean, if you go to 64305 and look at dissemination or possession of nude image of a minor, it's already in there. Nude image means a photograph or video depicting a person's, and I won't go through all the list, but the last one is breast of a female.
Well, this was in that excuse me, I'm sorry, Chairman.
Representative Strzok.
Thank you, Senator Crago, and I will, so here is in 6-4303, and I'm pretty sure this is the one that it was not listed in. So, or wait, maybe it was listed in that one. We've got problems where it wasn't in there. So, but because of the actual wording there, and what was said before, they said part of the reason they did not add those words was because if you've got like breastfeeding, or there was children in the bathtub, they were trying to keep those kind of people from being charged. But here we've got the word in there that would define it. The term lascivious means sexually suggestive or lewd. So that would imply that we've got that in there. So do you feel like it's already something that's been there?
Senator Crago.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm trying to figure out which crime, because if he was taking pictures of his stepchild, and as long as that person was under the age of 18, that is a crime. I mean, we don't need to fix a statute to do that. Now, I'm trying to figure out what other provision within statute we might be fixing, because that's not it, and maybe it's
6-4.
Representative Strzok.
Oh, I am so sorry. Thank you, Chairman Olson, Senator Crago. So in 6-4-303, we have it.
Senator Crago.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so that's the definitions. There's for sexual exploitation of a minor. I guess what he's saying is that we couldn't prosecute for child pornography.
Representative Strzok.
Thank you, Chairman Olson. Senator Crago, that is what I was brought to take care of and told. And that's the one, because it doesn't actually list that wording. And, excuse me, Chairman Olson,
Go ahead.
Senator Crago, so here in 6-4-306, it does list that, but in this other one, it did not.
What is I don't have the statute pulled up in front of me, so what is the penalty for sexual exploitation of children?
10 years, 10,000.
10 years, 10,000. And what statute were you looking at, Senator Crago? Earlier when you said it was part of the elements?
So I was looking at 64305.
Which is what crime?
Dissemination or possession
Dissemination or
of a
possession.
nude image, child pornography essentially.
What is the sentence under that, under 305? I'm just curious how they stack up against each other.
You can read it, Mr. Chairman.
No, I'm looking for the sentence. No, the sentencing, the
penalty.
penalty.
Thank you.
I get that it fits within the definition of 305. My instinct is telling me that 303 is more severe, which is what the prosecutor, why the prosecutor wanted to use 303.
It is.
But could not.
So that is 30. I was looking at 306 originally, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
And those put together, but it is more
It is more,
severe. Yep.
okay. Representative Strzok, why should this only apply to a female person? As opposed to the lascivious exhibition of any person's chest?
Thank you, Chairman Olson. When I brought this, I kind of approached the investigator when we were doing a lot of talking, but that is where they have the problem, and has been the only problem they have seen is the men, between girls and boys. And where, as I see it, we have two sexes, and that has not been a problem. So I don't know in any other statute, has it been, you've got all the other body parts listed for male and female. And there is problems for your little boys, obviously. And so here we've got the problems they were having with females.
Okay.
And I would, Chairman Olson, I would say that would maybe be something, I guess, if you guys, it wouldn't make it or break it, I wouldn't feel. With this, but I would think we would want it to match up with everything else that is in there.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. The language
So-
you have in your proposed statute is the language that was in 306 that Senator Crago was looking at, so the language would be consistent.
So I thank you, Chairman Olson.
Oh, I thought you read that to us,
No.
Senator Crago.
Mr. Chairman, it does not include the word chest. It just,
Oh, I see.
Or,
and it only applies to female.
It only applies to females though.
Yep. And I was wrong. I mean, that's nude dissemination or possession of a nude image by a minor, by a minor. And so I think that's the problem. And so I'm stand corrected. So I can see why we might need to change that.
Senator Kolb?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, I guess I was concerned about the female designation as opposed to any person. My question really comes down to probably an anatomy lesson here on a young person who hasn't developed breasts. Is that still a breast? I mean, I don't know. That's why I thought if we had more encompassing language, it would be better for that purpose. I don't know that level of granularity. So question to you, what your opinion is about, should we capture a wider net here of people up to this type of activity, or are you still good with the language that you put in the original bill draft?
Representative Strzok?
Chairman Olson, Senator Kolb, I will just say if it's something that you all talk about, and really it's people that have actually maybe been a little more, seen some more of this, if you feel that we need to, I don't think it would hurt the bill. I think if we, like you said, pull more into it, that's going to encompass more and maybe save someone else from things that should not be happening to protect these children. If we need to do that, I feel that it's a very open thing.
It does say chest. Chest or breasts. So if it was an undeveloped female, I think the chest would be enough. I think that's why that language is in there. Okay. Other questions for the representative? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Public comment. Anyone in the room wishing to testify on this bill? Online, I know we have one person signed up, Mr. Melia. Go ahead and admit him.
Chairman Olson, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
I'm having, here we go, video. I click this. Can you?
Now, yep, we can see you and hear you.
Thank you, Chairman Olson, members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to comment on this legislation. I totally support it, and all that Representative Strzok has said, I agree. What I'd like to say is that I've been in public health for 30 years. Part of it was City of Houston Health Department, where I dealt with sexuality in the schools. And up here in state of Wyoming, the first 10 years in Riverton, I dealt with STDs, and some of those were with high school students and whatnot. I think that one thing that we need to consider is the state constitution. I believe it is chapter 7, section 20, or the 20 and 7, that the legislature is supposed to protect the citizenry against vice and immorality. We have a particular shop here on Lincoln Way here in Cheyenne that sells all this stuff that could encourage adults to take it into children. They have products, shall we say, of sadomasochism, bondage, group sex, everything that's listed here in this amendment. And it'd be nice to give our children or minors a better image and a better example, because a lot of adults are extremely immature and irresponsible in the realm of human sexuality. And if we want to protect our children from this, getting rid of these particular sex shops would be good. So while I stand in agreement with all this, I think it needs to go farther, perhaps in another bill or whatever, an amendment here. They would need to be well thought out, that to not encourage adults or influence minors in these types of activities, getting rid of these types of sex shops that have these types of deviant sex toys, sex products, etc. So I would stand for any questions. I've seen a lot of this played out in Houston schools and the Houston culture. I'd hate to see that expand here in Cheyenne. It's bad image for our community and bad example for our children, and can set them up for exploitation, as they would say, oh, the adults do this sort of stuff, it must be okay. So when someone would approach them, they would be already indoctrinated and desensitized to these types of behaviors that we need to protect them from. And I would stand for any questions and support of this amendment.
Any questions for Mr. Melia? All right, thank you for tuning in and giving your input. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other public testimony on this bill? I will close public testimony committee. What is your pleasure?
Move the bill.
I do have one possible amendment in the construction of the last part of the sentence of the definition on lines 6 and 7. We have a double or in the sentence, which is a little uncommon, so I would move to, on line 6, insert a comma after genitals and then strike or, so that it reads lascivious exhibition of the genitals, comma, public area of the person or the chest or breasts of a female person. Still, I guess there's still 3 ors, but just trying to trim it up a little bit.
I make the motion.
Okay? That works, right?
Mr. Chairman, would it make sense to take out that second comma, second or two, or not?
Let's look at that. Public area of pubic area of any person, comma, the chest, or. I think, I understand they're trying to, the attorney that drafted this is trying to say that chest and breasts are the same. There's an or between the two, as opposed to the list.
Okay,
I don't know about the second or.
okay.
I think that could be left in.
Oh, comma.
But definitely the first or can go. That should be a really easy amendment to concur on. There's a lot of ors in this sentence, but yeah, I think this cleans it up at least a little bit. Yeah, some of the ors are between, I don't know. Yeah, they're supposed to be, looks like they're juxtaposing different things, so I think the rest of the ors are good.
Mr. Chairman, we wouldn't want to strike that second or.
That
or-
was Senator Crum's
Yeah.
thought. I don't think so.
No,
I think,
that won't improve it.
I think,
No.
I think the,
Okay.
yeah. Yep. I think so. Any other discussion? We've worked this bill to death. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, got that, Pierre? Yes, Senator Kolb.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I looked down about the female question we were talking about. I guess we didn't contemplate, frankly, the reality of a guy taking female hormones and developing breasts. So I don't know if it's worthy of a change because of that reason, but it could very well be a factor in the day and age we live in.
Senator Craigo?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so this only applies to children and we've outlawed that, so that shouldn't be happening anyways.
Not in Colorado?
Okay. Not in Wyoming. I mean, this is a Wyoming crime. I mean, I don't know how you would deal with that anyways, but
Because out of state, they would get hormones, and they come back in state. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility, that's all.
All right, any other discussion on this bill? Okay, Pierre, will you do a roll call vote on House Bill 171, Sexual Exploitation of Children Amendments?
Senator Craigo,
aye.
Senator Crum,
Aye.
Senator Hicks,
Excused.
Senator Kolb,
Aye.
Chairman Olson.
Aye.
4 ayes, 1 excuse, do pass amended.
All right, there you go. You never know. You never know when it comes to legislating. It looks like you have Senator Boner as your only senator on the bill, so he knows he's floor managing it? Okay. Very good. All right. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 227, Executive Order Time Limitations. Welcome, Representative Angelos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee. Today I bring to you House Bill 227, Executive Order Time Limitations. And this is a simple administrative cleanup bill. I hate to say that, but that is what it is. And what this will do is it will sunset all executive orders after a governor leaves office within 30 days. Of course, there's a provision, newly elected governors can extend any executive orders from previous administrations, but if they choose not to extend, they have a sure expiration date. Currently, there's no requirement or sunset on executive orders, and we actually don't have any administrative procedure on our executive orders as well. Wyoming executive orders eventually become obsolete, but they don't expire. And I think the last time we dealt with obsolete executive orders was in April of 2011. There was 197 executive orders rescinded. And something that you will hear, and I'm sure there are people that will testify, is, well, let me go back here. This bill actually creates statute 9-1-225. And some of the testimony you'll probably hear from the governor's office is that some executive orders, specifically on like ethics, have just they've just allowed them to continue. And so those are things that I would be more than willing to work with the executive branch to put into statute. I think some of those need to be put into statute, but they are currently executive orders that are just continuing. So that was some concern I know that they had. But I will stand for any questions.
Yeah, it seems to me your bill clearly allows for a process that if they want the executive order, if the incoming governor wants the executive order to continue, just issues a new executive order continuing it. And if there are executive orders that have been in place for years, yeah, maybe they should be put into statute. That's a good point. Senator Crum?
Yep. Mr. Chairman, my question would be, is this going to add to paperwork and bureaucracy? I mean, if some stuff's in place, and I'm just thinking, the governors, let it go for a long time. Now we got to do more paperwork to clean it up and then put it back in, or, because the governor has the right, I believe, right, to change the executive order or say it's no longer the executive order. I'm just wondering, are we solving one problem, but creating another problem that's just as big by having to clean up stuff that's been in and we just leave it in? And I don't know, I'm struggling. Can you help me with that answer? Are we fixing one thing to cause another problem?
Representative Angelos?
Mr. Chairman and Senator, what I think that you're looking at is if an executive order is that important, it should be extended. If it's not, are we creating more paperwork? Well, that's up to, a governor's office. I think if they feel they're important, specifically like if we're thinking of ethics and things like that have gone on, they either need to be put into the green books, and that is a lot of paperwork that we need to address, or they need to be extended. So there could be more paperwork, but either way there is, and probably needs to be addressed.
Senator Craigo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Representative, thanks for being here today. So I'm pretty sure we're going to hear an argument about separation of powers. And what's going to be your response to that?
Representative Angelos?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Craigo, there are 3 branches of government. And so I don't believe this is overstepping someone's executive powers or the executive branch, because if they are deemed necessary or that they feel that these executive orders need to continue, the next administration can do that. And when you look at a newly incoming administration coming in November, and these wouldn't expire until after they take office in January, I think you have almost, 2.5 months to address important executive orders if they need to continue. So that would be my reply.
Senator Craigo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to follow up, Representative, one of the questions or the concerns, thoughts, et cetera, the 30 days. I mean, are you does it have to be 30 days? Could it be longer to make sure they have plenty of time to get to it after they're in office? I know there's lots of them that are at the top of our mind, right? Like you and I could rattle off probably 10 executive orders that we know about, but there's lots that none of us know anything about, and the incoming governor may not know about either. Are you opposed to us changing that out a ways further?
Representative Angelos?
Chairman and Senator Craigo, I'm not opposed to that. I think the original bill was 60 days, and we did amend it down to 30. So I'm not opposed to that. I just want to make sure it's we're not going months and months. I think, a couple of months is plenty of time for a new administration to review those, especially if they are important. I would imagine staff will be bringing those immediately. Thank you.
Senator Cole?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry.
That's not my preferred pronoun.
I'm sorry. I'll rescind that. I'm sure you're a male. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, I guess my bigger question is what dog do we have in this fight? This is the governor's office. It's his office. He makes executive orders or not makes executive orders. How do we have the authority with the separation of powers to tell the governor anything about executive orders? I don't understand how we think we can do that, or maybe more importantly first is why? Why? What is currently hanging out there that wasn't addressed, or something that should have changed, or maybe should have affirmed an executive order? I see we're really reaching. I mean, I have a hard time getting here with this bill to understand where we fit into this. Where is it our duty to tell the governor what he's doing with his office? I mean, I'm not going to say I agree with everything the governor does or disagree, but I don't get how we're getting this authority for his elected office, and then the authority he's granted under his elected office, that we somehow breach that and say, no, you've got to do this because we told you to. I mean, that's what I'm trying to get my arms around here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Angelos?
Mr. Chairman and Senator Kolb, I think a lot of what we're looking at is a lot of governors in the past and probably in the future create their policy through executive orders. And so when they finish their term, those policies are going to be changed and different with the next governor. So that's what I'm looking at, and what you're going to see, that policies are going to change, and should those policy choices be left open-ended?
I know it's probably pretty rare, but the way this statute is drafted on line 12 of page 1, it only applies to a newly elected governor. So if the governor resigns or dies in office or is removed from office, then the Secretary of State is appointed. I guess I don't even know if that's the right word, but assumes office. So under that scenario, it wouldn't apply to to that incoming Secretary of State who'd become governor. Have you given thought to that, or is that the first time that's come up? Representative Angelos?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do believe some of that language was in there, and it was amended out on the House floor, but it was worded that way. Newly elected governor or governor incoming, it's been changed a couple of times, so.
Yeah, I guess I didn't ask what were the differences between the old bill and this bill? Yeah, it just says the governor. Okay. Was that amended out in committee or on the floor? Representative Angelos?
Mr. Chairman, on the floor.
Okay. Were there any other changes to the bill that you recall?
There was a amendment to change section 2. It says this act applies to any executive orders currently in effect or issued on or after July 1st. The first draft, it did not pertain to any executive orders prior to July 1st, 2025.
Got it. Okay. Any other questions for Representative Angelos before we go to the public? All right, we're going to go to the public. We have the governor's office. Please come forward. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Olson, members of the committee. Kit Wentland, Special Counsel, Tribal Relations Policy Advisor for Governor Gordon. Mr. Chairman, if it works for you, I can just run through our position on the bill and some concerns we have with it.
Yeah, you bet.
As noted before, I won't beat a dead horse on this, but separation of powers, I think we have a very big concern on this bill. And I just want to first address 2 points. I think there's this perception out there that there's this mountain of old dead executive orders that are overreaching and the governor's creating laws through his executive orders, and we need to fix that. That's not the case. Every executive order that Governor Gordon has ever signed is posted on his website from, was it 2019 was his first office until now. Each order has the specific statutory or constitutional authority under which it's issued, listed in the recitals for the order itself. And then most, if not all, of his executive orders have an automatic rescission date. So while it might be there are old executive orders that didn't, many executive orders say this order is effective until X date or until rescinded. Most of our orders are these seasonal emergencies like delivery of propane, deliverance of livestock feed, declarations of emergency, which by their nature come with deadlines. So for what it's worth, in terms of Governor Gordon's office, we have a very good handle of any and all executive orders. They're posted publicly. And any executive orders before his time, as long as you have an account with the state library, they can all be viewed. So moving on from that, there are really two types of executive orders. And this is where the separation of powers issue, I think, comes into play. Because executive orders, I think there's a perception that they create law. They don't. They're not rules. They don't have any lawmaking authority whatsoever, because that's the province of the legislature unless otherwise delegated. And so for an executive order, most of them are an inherent exercise of the governor's authority under the Constitution to direct state agencies, to direct and administer the law. For example, as was referenced before, the ethics EO. There's the ethics statutes in Title IX that the legislature has drafted. The ethics EO goes even further and says there won't be even an appearance of impropriety in how you operate. Other examples of things that handle how an agency administers itself is like banning TikTok on state devices, or anti-discrimination policies, the complaint procedure for how, if that happens, it makes its way through the proper chain, or foreign travel approval procedures, so that if an employee is going to travel across country lines, they have to go through a specific procedure all the way up to the governor's office to make sure there's consistency across state agencies. Those are examples of an executive order and how you would administer things with them. That, again, what that is really the most formal way a governor can issue an order or a directive to his agency directors. It's not him making rules or making law. There's the second type, and those are where the legislature may choose in statute to say, with an executive order, you can declare an emergency to open up X funding, or declare an emergency to open up an exception to this load restriction for semis. Several of those tie in with federal statutes that require that. Those, if it's specifically in those statutes, those are ones where, yes, if it's a legislatively delegated authority there, maybe that's a little different, but those are few and far between. And that's why here, with this blanket, any executive orders are limited timeline-wise, since the Constitution grants the governor the authority to administer his agencies, and the governor does that partly through executive orders, really the same way that the president does with his agencies, that really can't be limited by statute. And that's the main concern that we have with the separation of powers concerns. While the intent may be administrative cleanup, it does go into the realm of, we had a big discussion about this over the interim. Can you subject executive orders to administrative rulemaking procedures? And our position's the same there. Categorically, no. It crosses a line where that we would believe is the province of the governor, because it's not him making law, it's him running his agencies. In terms of bureaucracy, an ancillary issue, as referenced by Senator Crum, it could create a lot of paperwork and bureaucracy. There's a lot of old executive orders, and those 30 days at the beginning of a governor's term, it's right in the middle of a session, and everybody's getting their feet underneath them. It is a busy, hectic time, as we all know. So with that, I'd stand for any questions. The main thing I want to emphasize is executive orders are not out of control in Wyoming. The governor is very anal retentive about making sure every order has statutory or constitutional authority, and I know that because I've helped draft the vast majority of them myself. Because of the separation of powers concerns and the transparency of his current process, I would just ask that we don't go down this road. But I would stand for any questions if you have any.
Questions for the governor's office? Senator Kolb?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just, I guess probably one of the most pertinent questions that I probably would think about is the COVID response and the executive order I believe it was given. I guess if you could say the details of that and just how long that lasted for and when it was rescinded and a little bit of a history on that to kind of paint a bit of color on what typically might happen with an executive order.
Mr. Wentland?
Chairman Olson, Senator Kolb, I don't have specific dates, but I can tell you that is so the COVID emergency orders are the declarations and then the various health orders that came from them. That is a specific instance where that power partly came from health statutes that provided the ability for declarations of emergency that opened up those avenues. I know those weren't just pulled out of a hat. And so that's where I would say if there's areas like that, or if there's other areas where it's like, look, maybe we're uncomfortable with the authority that was delegated to the executive, specifically in this statute, I would say that's where pinpoint that statute. I know there's probably 2 or 3 hot areas with executive orders where somebody might say, well, Mr. Wentland, you're close, but it's in the gray area. That's where I think the issue is, look at that specific statute, not the one as a whole. For those, I don't remember the dates. I remember when COVID first started in 2020 and they had to start figuring out the different closures. Those lasted and I think started softening in the summer. I know the declaration of emergency itself lasted longer for the need to get through the funding portion. But I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact dates themselves.
Any follow-up, Senator Kolb? Senator Crago? Nope, nothing from you, Senator Crum? Okay, thank you, Mr. Wentland.
Thank you.
Any other agencies wishing to testify on this bill? How about general public comment? Anyone from the public wishing to testify on this bill? Do we have, oh, yes, come on up. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kathy Russell, Executive Director for the Wyoming Republican Party. We would stand in support of this bill simply because of there's always a need to review when things are put in place. That even includes statutes. I think we all have examples of statutes that are conflicting, so it's always good to review. And this is the executive order related to the COVID issues was one that particularly still concerns people. And so for a governor coming in to be able to review again is not impinging on the rights and authorities of the executive in place when someone else comes in. They do have a right to review things and decide what to keep because they may have a completely different policy. I did look up a memorandum, and I apologize, this may have already been brought up, from April 2024 from the Wyoming Legislative Services Office, Executive Orders General Background. A governor may issue executive orders to implement constitutional and lawfully authorized statutory powers. In doing so, he may properly execute the law, but cannot make new law. And clearly identifying that dividing line can be difficult. However, to implement policy is another thing, and that's not included in this. So I appreciated the reminder that the COVID declaration or the COVID executive order stemmed out of the health statutes. So definitely there's work to do, but this is an issue for the Republicans of the state, according to what we've seen in resolutions and discussions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Questions for Ms. Russell? right, thank you. Any other public testimony? You want a second bite at the apple, Mr. Wendland? Come on up.
My apologies, Mr. Chairman. Just real quickly, I just wanted to make sure to clarify, any governor that comes in can always rescind an executive order regardless of this bill. Any governor can rescind any executive order that exists. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Wendland? All right, thank you. Was there anyone online, Pierre, signed up for this? Okay. Then I will close public testimony on House Bill 227. Committee, what is your pleasure? Any pleasure? No? Okay. Thank you, Representative Angelos. And we are adjourned.